brigadiers from the Chinese and Indian side are talking at patrol point 14, which is the mouth to the Galwan Valley. Everyone else has a ridiculously inaccurate map. India Today has the only accurate map. It's actually scandalous how other channels are giving you maps and information which is totally irrelevant, a wrong picture of what's actually happening. But if you stay with India Today, we will give you the right picture. Let's make no mistake. This is no time for obfuscation that other channels do. Here on India Today, we will give you the facts because one colonel, and two army jawans have lost their lives. At least a dozen, 12 Indian army soldiers have received grievous injuries, including head injuries, and there have been casualties on the Chinese side. Now, I want to focus a little bit on the casualties on the Chinese side, ladies and gentlemen. Let me summarize for you what we know so far. The Indian Army put out a statement at 1:08 p.m. saying casualties on both sides. Then you had a flurry of Chinese journalists saying, we have also heard that there have been casualties on the Chinese side. Now you have the editor-in-chief of Global Times, which is a Chinese media organization that's heavily involved in propaganda, who has come out and said, I have also heard that there are casualties on the Chinese side, but those numbers remain elusive at this point of time. My sources tell me at least 3 casualties on that side, but I don't want to get into a distasteful, 3 on our side, 3 on their side. But it is important to give you that information because you, the viewer, want to know, was this a one-sided fight where 3 Indian soldiers were killed, or was this a horrifying clash in which there were casualties on both sides? And now we can categorically confirm that there were casualties on both sides, and that's why talks are happening to diffuse the situation. I want to bring in Lt Gen B.S Jaiswal, former Northern Army commander, a man who has seen the China border, commanded there and commanded the Northern Army for many years. General Jaiswal, welcome. A very, very difficult situation. 2 brigadiers are talking at patrol point 14 in Ladakh. What do you think is going to happen next, sir?
You see, there's going to be a process wherein they're going to decide how exactly to de-escalate the thing. Because the way the things are unfolding by the minute, what we are understanding is that the design with which the Chinese had stayed put over there, how the skirmish took place, the intent part of it was not to aggravate it to this level. So I think there is space. We can de-escalate. Otherwise, the ramifications are, of course, all the points get activated. As I see, it should be de-escalated at the senior military commanders level. The brigadiers are meeting over there. I believe some major generals also coming from the Chinese side and our side too. As also at the same time, the MEA, they should be diffusing. And I would also like to say one thing at this stage. Yes, it's rather unfortunate. We have had 3 martyrs. I salute them. But the media will have to play a very responsible role in trying to put across the feelings in a manner that for no rhyme or reason, we don't add, adrenaline to the sentiments which would lead on to a kind of misunderstanding and aggravate the situation.
But can you give us a sense of what exactly they're going to talk about, sir? Because it's very difficult for the layperson to understand. 3 Indian Army personnel, including the commanding officer of the battalion there, has lost their lives in this clash. What is the nature of the discussion? How are they going to de-escalate it even at that local level? I mean, we've seen talks taking place at every other level in an effort to actually de-escalate. In the atmosphere of de-escalation and disengagement, how could such a clash happen?
You see, what happens is that it depends what kind of troops are there from the Chinese and how exactly our reaction was there. From this tu-tu meh-meh, it can aggravate to physical contact. And I believe the Chinese had come with gloves which had nails, etc., like knuckle dusters or whatever it is. So their intention was that they wanted to, go in for... Just a second, sorry.
Yes, I'll allow you to silence that phone, sir. Yes, please.
Yeah. Their intention was to be prepared for a higher escalation in physical terms. Fortunately, not a single round was fired. Now, this Unfortunately, the CO, they fell, CO and the two boys, they fell into the river. So it was not a kind of I would call a physical skirmish wherein we were trying to kill each other. It was, if you fall in the river because the steep, the very steep slopes over there. So the intent has to be analyzed. And then thereafter, we have got a lot of space to de-escalate the thing. Because, you see, if they had not come with intention, if they had come with intention, surely we would have opened up fire. He would have opened up, we would have opened up. But that they have not. It's unfortunate that our CO, who was very brave, he was there, right there. Was it the CO or 2IC? Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel can also be called as a colonel over here. I do not know the details as yet.
Yeah.
But the fact
commanding officer,
is that they were there on the precipice. No, it can be officiating also, commanding officer.
No, sir, he had taken
officer,
over in December.
Okay.
We can confirm
Point
it was
taken.
the CO.
Good thing. Okay, fine. If it's the CO, you see, the moment the CO, he's down, the tempers go up.
Yeah.
Our Indian troops cannot withstand that. And probably that's the reason the Chinese have also had certain number of casualties, because we would have gone in. But fortunately, our Indian troops have been mature enough not to resort to firing. They got on the fight. They also made sure that the Chinese suffer casualties. So this conflict has to be seen from a very different prism. You can't see it that it was an intended clash by them and they came to kill our people, and that's how it happened. It's a skirmish, and as a result, unfortunately, we've lost. They've also lost. So I think we must localize it over here, and that is prudence, I would call, in the present situation, and not aggravate at other places. Wherever this meeting is going on, that will be, I think, sorted out, that there will be no physical contact. And whatever they have decided in the talks, they must withdraw up to those lines. They had agreed to withdraw right up to the Galwan accepted line, which is there. So they must not get any physical. The flag drill which is there, that has to be followed and respected. This kind of a thing, I think, will be gone into, so that there is no physical contact in future and no kind of fracas of this nature takes place.
Yeah, to bring you in now, we understand that the Defense Minister has met with all the service chiefs, the CDS. He's going to be briefing the Prime Minister via a video conference link as well. You know, we do know that, talks have been happening at every possible level, from the additional secretary level, External Affairs Ministry, in the army, from Colonel to Brigadier to Major General to Lieutenant General. What does that say about the talks, sir? The fact that such a violent brawl took place, can it be isolated from the fact that de-escalatory talks have been taking place at all these levels over the last 1 month?
You see, within de-escalatory talks, which are going on, they are going at a higher level.
Okay, yeah, General Jaiswal, you can finish, then I'll get the same answer from General Bhatia. Yeah.
Okay, and I have to also switch on to another channel at 3.
Yeah.
So, or you can take it from General Bhatia. I'll switch on to the channel.
Okay, General Bhatia, you want to take that question, sir?
Yeah, I agree with General Jaiswal in totality. What happens is that this incident is sad, but it also will give an impetus to both the sides for an early resolution. Definitely a de-escalation. I'm more than sure that's where the talks are on, because if this was not to be, then the talks should not be on. So this will give an impetus to de-escalation, immediate de-escalation, and a restoration of the stability to an extent. The signals which are coming out from Beijing also are one of, they mirror the statement that's come out of the ME also. That situation is stable, though sensitive. And I do feel that the talks going on at all levels, at the diplomatic level, military level, on ground, flag meetings, are a positive sign. And we need to de-escalate, get back to the to what it was prior to May last month, that is. And I think de-escalation will take place sooner than later.
Okay, I want to bring in our Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan and our senior executive editor Gaurav Sawant in on this coverage as well. They're both plugged into what the government is saying. Geeta, the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar was part of that meeting that the Defence Minister held with the Chief of Defence Staff and the Armed Forces Chiefs earlier today. What can you tell us? Is the External Affairs Ministry likely to make a statement? They're the ones who have, had the onus as far as messaging on this issue is concerned.
That's right, but we do not know whether if an official statement will be made. We are expecting a response from the Ministry of External Affairs. The External Affairs Minister was present in that meeting that took place, held by Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, which lasted 74 minutes, 57 seconds to be precise, Shiv. And now we know that the Defence Minister is briefing the Prime Minister. So a call will be taken as to how to handle this on various fronts. We know that Ambassador Vikram Misri has been dialing up and connecting with the Chinese Foreign Office. But the situation is dire. It's really serious, and we'll have to wait and see how India really handles the situation. This comes days ahead of the 23rd June meeting that is to take place via video conference among the Russian, Indian and Chinese foreign ministers. The RIC virtual foreign ministers meet is to take place on the 23rd of June. And Shiv expects this conversation to take place between Wang Yi and Dr. Jaishankar on the India-China border standoff, as also how that really impacts regional security and bilateral relations.
Stay with me, Geeta. Stay with me, Gaurav. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry, war hero, Shaurya Chakra, a person who was one of the first officers in Operation Meghdut to reach Siachen, is also with me live. General Kulkarni, thank you for being with us. Very difficult and troubling day, from the Galwan Valley of what has happened. Give me your sense of what you think may have caused this, because, to the lay person, the lay Indian, it seemed like a de-escalation and a disengagement process was happening. And then you suddenly hear the most horrifying news that the commanding officer of the battalion and 2 army jawans have been killed in clashes. Possibly, casualties on the Chinese side as well, which are being confirmed by, editor-in-chiefs over there. What's your take, sir?
Shiv, very unfortunate. I think it's one of the most unfortunate incidents, and I have been now handling and been with them at so many places, attending border personnel meeting and seeing to it that such incidents don't occur. Yeah. And de-escalation was very much on the cards, and things looked all very positive. My assessment right now would be, I think, only 2. One, I think there could just have been an aberration on the ground where things have gone out of control. And otherwise, there's no question of an incident like this, whether it be stone throwing. The fact that you've lost a commanding officer and you've lost 2 men is very, very unfortunate. I don't know, because I have no inputs of what has happened on the Chinese side, but having lost these 3 on our side, I think it's very unfortunate. Things should not have gone to such a level where firing has to be resorted to, number 1. Number 2, if it is not an aberration, and if it has instructions from somewhere up from down CMC or at the local, their commander level, again, it is extremely unfortunate. Nobody, imagine, since 1967 till date, we've been adhering to protocol, we've been adhering to peace and tranquility. All of them have been upgraded over the years. There have been talks happening at the highest level. Even an incident like Doklam, where 73 days everybody has been eyeball to eyeball, things of these kinds have not happened. And suddenly, at a time when things look positive, things look that people are going to disengage, and that disengagement process has virtually started. I don't know how such a thing could have actually happened. It is very unfortunate, and I think these are not signs. If it is an aberration, I think we must talk. We must not at all. Whoever has done an aberration, it is so much better to say sorry now, rather than escalating it to a level and hiding one another curtain. No. Whoever has done a fault must commit and accept that, sorry, such an incident has happened. We did not intend to do it, or it has happened by mistake or whatever. If it has happened from the Chinese side, the Chinese must come forward and say so. If it has happened from our side, for whatever the reason it may be, we must be able to say so. But let this incident not escalate to a level where things go out of hand. Things like these only, minor things to take place which can go out of hand. If there is a sincerity at the political level, and I'm sure The hotlines must be on, the diplomatic levels must be on. Right now, even the military level talks possibly may be on at some places to ensure that de-escalation takes place. But everything now will go from the top. It has to come down from the top. Nothing. We are not going to be firing. We might have a misunderstanding, but those misunderstandings will be resolved only by talk. But if it is flowing from top, we might well keep our powder dry.
Have to keep our powder dry. This was a definite escalation. Efforts are on to calm the situation, but it is proving to be difficult. The latest that we're getting right now is that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has just completed that video call with Prime Minister Modi. It was a video conference call with the Prime Minister and his team, where Rajnath Singh is said to have briefed the Prime Minister after meeting with India's top military brass. He's briefed him on the situation. He's given him a full 360-degree perspective on this very violent clash last night in the Patrol Point 14 area, the mouth of the Galwan Valley in Ladakh, where a clash has resulted in 3 Indian Army personnel being bludgeoned. They were killed in action during that clash, including a colonel of the infantry battalion and 2 army jawans, 1 JCO and 1 non-commissioned officer. Let's go across now to India Today's Gaurav Sawant, our senior executive editor. Gaurav, Rajnath Singh interacting with the Prime Minister, briefing him on the situation. What more can you tell us?
The situation is developing rapidly. There is a meeting of the major generals of the Indian and the Chinese army also happening simultaneously. So there are meetings that are happening at multiple levels for disengagement, and Rajnath Singh, the Raksha Mantri, was briefing Prime Minister Narendra Modi about developments that were taking place and also about India's stance along the line of actual control, and not just restricted to the east, to the Ladakh sector, also the east and the middle sector. Shiv, from what sources are now telling India Today, this particular incident was what happened at one particular point and not elsewhere, is what sources are now telling us. So the situation, as it develops, India was asking China to move back, as had already been decided, and while moving back, there was reluctance on the Chinese side, where the message hadn't reached from the Chinese commander to their soldiers on ground. When it was conveyed to them that, by midnight they were to cross over to the other side of the line of actual control, there was reluctance. One thing led to the other, and this led to, fisticuffs, pushing back, jostling, and it escalating. But it remained restricted only to this area. While we've had 3 fatalities and about 11 non-fatalities, including a couple of critical soldiers, critical on our side, there are media reports from the Chinese side, including the Chinese government mouthpiece, the Global Times. Chief reporter initially claimed 5 fatalities. Now their editor-in-chief claiming that they've had several serious cases and telling India not to, go beyond this at this point of time. From what sources are telling India Today, both sides at other places are maintaining peace and calm. At this particular point, India is ensuring or trying to ensure that China moves back to the other side of the line of actual control, and that is what the conversation between the major generals is all about at this point of time, Shiv.
Very, very disturbing details coming out from the clash that has taken place. There is information about the injuries to many others, and whether all of the personnel have been accounted for at this time. I don't want to conjecture on any information that is doing the rounds, but we will only report the facts as confirmed and communicated by the Indian Army. This is too sensitive an information to go out on a limb about, because there are talks taking place at Patrol Point 14 as we speak. The Defence Minister has just briefed Rajnath Singh as well. This is a very, very serious situation. It may be localized to that particular area, but it is only proof of just how violent things are and just how volatile things are as far as troops on both sides are concerned. Patrol Point 14 in the Galwan Valley is one of the points where the standoff has taken place. I want to welcome onto our coverage Major General Ashwini Sivach, who's one of India's best-known military affairs experts, onto our coverage. General Sivach, thank you for being with us. Your assessment, sir, of this particular situation. What are you hearing about it? What can you tell us?
Shiv, there is no doubt it's a very unfortunate incident which has taken place yesterday night. and where we have lost commanding officer and 3 more fatal Jawans. We don't know what is the casualty as far as the Chinese are concerned. It is a global time which is a mouthpiece which is telling of China. We should not believe them because they have their own agenda. To me, it looks very strange that so many casualties have taken place without firing even a bullet. So this is where, the thing. Second thing is, this may be localized, but things getting out of hand is very much possible because it means it looks like on ground, too much disengagement has still not taken place. The troops are very close proximity. That's how this incident had taken place. If the disengagement would have been 2 to 3 kilometers, they are not very close to each other, such incident could have been avoided. But in any way, my point is, though it is a localized in patrol point 14, then there is a 15, then there is a hot spring, then there is the Pangangso and Demchok area. But things getting out of hand and spreading to the other area is very much possible. Because we have lost one commanding officer of a unit, this is a very serious concern. It can't be taken lightly by the Indian Army. It has to be paid back to them the same coin. Let's see how much casualty that has occurred as far as China is concerned. But all said and done, we as a country, neither India nor China will like to go for full-fledged attack and war. And at this time, there is a requirement of de-escalating the situation at both the ends, and that's how a talk at Major General level is taking place. But my point is, I've been telling from from day one, because I was a chief of staff in 14 Corps in 2011 and 12. I'm aware of the complete ground reality. You cannot believe Chinese. Please be mentally prepared. It was, they can go to any extent. The incident which has taken place yesterday has shown you must guard against all odds as far as China is concerned. And I also will say that this issue will not be resolved militarily. Raise the level at diplomatically and political level if you want peace to prevail there. Because the situation is too tense to be sorted out at military level at Galwan, Pangangso or at Demchok. Raise the level and disengage both the forces so that there is a safe distance between both of them. Otherwise, such situation can occur. What has happened yesterday, things getting out of hand will not take much time. So we must be very careful. Let's disengage. Let's talk at highest level there and at the same time raise the level diplomatically and political. Because none of these countries, neither we nor China want a war.
It's a very difficult situation, and I want to also show you what the editor-in-chief of China's biggest propaganda media outfit, the Global Times, has just said. Hu Shijin, who is the editor-in-chief of the English and Chinese editions of the Global Times, has just tweeted. I want to put out what he has said on your screens. He has said, this is the most authentic confirmation you can have so far that casualties have taken place on the Chinese side. Based on what I know, says Hu, Chinese side also suffered casualties in the Galwan Valley physical clash. I want to tell the Indian side, don't be arrogant and misread China's restraint as being weak. China doesn't want to have a clash with India, but we don't fear it. So what Hu Shijin of the Global Times has basically confirmed, first of all, of course, is that casualties have taken place, even though he hasn't put out the numbers. The latter part of his tweet, of course, confirms that Global Times is indeed a propaganda mouthpiece, because why else would a journalist warn India about arrogance, etc. That is not his place. He's a journalist. He should be sticking to what he knows and putting out information instead of talking about arrogance. He should simply say, have there been casualties or not? He has at least done that. So applauding the editor-in-chief of the Global Times in China, where he has said that casualties have taken place based on what I know. Based on what he knows, he's the editor-in-chief of Global Times. Who would know better than him? So we can believe what he has said. He's got a blue tick, as you can see from Twitter there. This is possibly the first verified confirmation from the Global Times of China that casualties have indeed taken place. I want to get a word in from Lieutenant General Ravi Sani for more on this as well. General Sani, your assessment of this particular situation, 3 casualties on the Indian side. I hear that number might actually rise. No information just yet on what has happened on the Chinese side, though we can confirm that casualties have taken place. What do you think is going to happen, General Sani?
First of all, I am very confident that we have very competent officers at the different levels manning the LAC, and I'm sure that whatever decision they take would be a very apt decision. So as far as this incident is concerned, what I hear, and I'm not at the spot and I'm just getting the news from your channels only, it appears rather unfortunate that when we thought that there was disengagement taking place, after mutual consultation, there has been a confrontation. So the confrontation should to have occurred itself is not a very good thing, but it has happened. And I think in this particular one, as to shootings didn't take place, that's what I have been told. It was a physical scuffle, but scuffle of a type where the casualties on our side, we have lost a CO, but that is in the best tradition of the Indian Army. The officers always lead in the front, but there have been casualties on the other side also. I will not be arrogant as the global time because that's a propaganda machine. But I think the Chinese know that they are confronting an army which is a very, very professional army, which knows this area for the last about 40 to 50 years. And they understand the area and they know how to fight. So, and they are not spoiling for a fight, but they are a very, very self-respecting and a dedicated army. They never start a trouble, but they never fear it if the other side starts it. I do hope that this particular message will go across to them and there would be a restraint from their side, not from the Indian side. But as I'm saying this, I don't know how the situation is developing. But I have got my full confidence in the Indian Army. I got in Indian Armed Forces, whether it is the Army, Air Force or the Navy. And I think whatever they are doing it very sensibly. But this particular incident has been upsetting.
Okay.
Because this shouldn't have taken place. But now that it has taken place, it should be taken as such that we are quite steadfast in wherever we are. And we'll never, ever give an inch also. But I'm not spoiling for a fight. I'm not saying that. And that is not the intention at all. But just a message across to the China or to anybody else that Indian Army, Indian Armed Forces are not a pushover. Hello.
General Sani, for joining me on that story with your assessment. I also want to bring in General P.K. Sehgal for more on the story. General Sehgal, your assessment, sir, do you think, there is information coming in that the situation is even worse than initially thought? There could be more than 3 casualties on the Indian side. We don't have any clarity on what's happened on the Chinese side. Stray bits of information coming in that are painting a very, very troubling picture of the nature of this particular clash. What can you tell us about what you're hearing and what you think is going to happen next, General Sehgal?
Firstly, the situation is rather grim.
Okay, we'll just try and fix that connection there with General Sehgal. But General Kulkarni, I want to bring it back to you. Brigadiers on both sides are currently talking at patrol point 14. What are you hearing, sir? Do you think that this situation can be diffused because the bits of unofficial information coming in suggest that this is even more troubling than initially imagined?
Shiv, I know the whole thing is very, very sad, extremely unfortunate. The fact that it has occurred later part of the evening when interpreters are not available, you can't actually communicate one another. There could have been a misunderstanding which may have happened on the ground. If it's confined only to the misunderstanding on the ground, I assure you the brigadier level talks at PP14 will resolve the issue, and I think this whole thing will get diffused. Notwithstanding that, the options must all be kept open. Now is not the time that we just graduate and slowly and steadily move up and escalate to a level of top. It should be happening right at the top level and stop it right now, because whatever it might be, since you rightly said, the situation has been tense, volatile, and small incidents can, suddenly can raise an individual at a point of time not knowing, and especially And obviously, there'll be casualties on both sides. But the question is, each one of them accusing one another that you started, it was you who, it's all ridiculous. The Chinese would have done, and it is quite possible because, as I see, what would have happened on ground is unable to understand each other. Maybe the orders probably, were not understood by either of the teams properly as to what exactly the LAC on ground. There isn't anything defined. Yes, we have, especially Petrol Point 14, where this incident is reportedly occurred. It's quite clear. We know exactly where Petrol Point 14 is. And the de-escalation, I look at it, Shiv, I'm quite hopeful and positive. If the things have not flown from the top, and if the aberration has occurred at the ground level, it is very much within control. And the brigadier level talks, and maybe a little higher, the talks must go on. You will find by this evening, things would have stabilized. Yes, there would have been far more. There would have been casualties. If 3 are dead, obviously there will be many more who will also be injured. And they will be critical. After all, the bullets that are flying, and their bullets have been very, very close if such an incident has occurred. I think something has gone amiss. Otherwise, there is no question of the firing taking place, and the Chinese either maybe of not understanding the language have, it has resulted in this kind of an incident, which is very, very unfortunate because there is no way, the systems are so much good at place that the firing cannot take place.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. A bit of pushing can take place, a bit of, scuffling can take place, trying to convey to the other person in seriousness, no, you go there, no, I'll go here, you go back, and that kind of a thing can happen. But firing, whoever has done it, I think is incorrect, and I'm positive the Indian side would not have resorted to firing because the CO is there. The fact that the CO is there, he knows what exactly is to be done, he's briefed well, he knows how much to go and what is to be done, and if he himself has got martyred, it's very, very dangerous. The situation is indeed very serious, and we need to take control, and we must ensure at all times to defuse the situation, even if the level has to go right up to the Prime Minister or to the President of China. They must talk immediately and say no more. That's it. Only then the situation can be under control. Otherwise, it will just might go out of hand.
This is an incredibly volatile situation, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to try and give you as many facts as possible while also maintaining the sensitivity because talks are happening right now. Rajnath Singh has spoken to the Prime Minister. Brigadiers of both sides are speaking at Petrol Point 14. General Sehgal, I hope that audio line has been fixed. I hope you can hear me. You were telling us about what you consider your assessment of this situation. Can things escalate? We do have a confirmation that 3 on the Indian side have died, including a commanding officer, which is a terrible piece of information. But we understand that the situation might actually be much worse than we think it is.
Absolutely. Losing a commanding officer is something that is not easily acceptable to the troops. The troops will look for an opportunity to take a revenge. That notwithstanding, the Indians are very matured and very sane and very sensible. And they will not go beyond what has been told to them. I'm very certain the situation will get resolved at the brigadier level as far as the current scenario is concerned, and I don't think it will go out of control. Yes, there is a possibility of it going out of control if both sides act with an immaturity. One side, I'm very certain, is absolutely and totally mature of the Indian side. As far as the Chinese side is concerned, they can never be trusted, and we've got to make sure that we do not lower down our guard or our vigil at all. We've got to remain absolutely alert across the line of actual control, where we are standing by in totality, waiting for Chinese to do any stupid thing, and our response would be of a variety that the Chinese will learn a severe lesson. Chinese must have already realized that India of today is not the India of 1962. This was an unarmed conflict, and they were better prepared in the sense they came with rods which had barbed wire and which had nails. Indians did not have anything on this side, and that notwithstanding, the global time admits that they suffered greater casualties. And do remember that global times will always underplay, because the Chinese people will not easily accept the fact that the Chinese had a loss of face. Besides, a loss of face or a setback for China today is also a major setback for Beijing as well as for Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping has been projecting a muscular image, and that image is severely getting dented on a daily basis. The entire world is against them. They stand internationally isolated.
Yes.
Taiwan is a problem around their neck. Hong Kong is a problem along their neck. Tibet itself is becoming a problem. They have a problem with Uyghurs. They've got a problem with everybody in South China Sea. And even in OBOR, they're finding difficulty because projects are being cancelled in Southeast Asia, Middle East. in Africa. And in Africa, the countries are saying that they will not pay interest beyond 0.6% to 1%, which are the international norms. They will not pay 8%. Otherwise, as far as they're concerned, they can forget it. They are in no position whatsoever to pay or to service the loans. Under these circumstances, China is increasingly coming under economic pressure. Joblessness is taking place on a daily basis. The industry is shutting down. And any delay on a daily basis is going to cost the Chinese far more than what it is going to cost India. Indian public opinion.
General Sivach, the information that's coming in on a minute-to-minute basis suggests that things are much worse, sir. It may not just be 3 casualties. It might be much more. I don't want to speculate on that. But with the 2 brigadiers talking right now, can the tempers be cooled? As General Sehgal rightly said, when a commanding officer is killed in this way, how do you keep the troops calm, sir?
Absolutely, Shiv, there is no doubt. Though it looks that commander level talk is going at PP.14 and things will be settled down because it was a localized action only taking place in this battalion area where the commanding officer has martyred. So this is seriousness. So will Indian Army accept that in case there are no casualty other side? It's a mute question. What Global Time is telling, you do not believe them. They may be playing a victim card. They may be trying to say that we are not the initiator of this scuffle. It is started by Indians and we have also suffered 5 casualties. We should get this casualty from our side of the Chinese, then it will look like that. But certainly, as on today, since the brigade commander level talks are going between India and China, it is in our interest the situation get diffused and things get under control, because in case if this localized effect gets spread all over the line of actual control, especially in eastern Ladakh, things can become very uglier. So I'm very sure there is a maturity on both sides. Things will try to get resolved. But I certainly feel the way we are handling, we have to disengage, we have to have some sort of safe distance between both the armies, because if they are very close by, a misunderstanding taking place between either of that is very common phenomena, and we have been there for last 1 month. So disengagement has to take place in a manner there is a safe zone in between, because there is a communication gap, there is a language problem between Indian and Chinese, and there is a misunderstanding. And second thing is, when this incident initially took place on 5th, 6th of May and at Pangangso and Galwan, when they have come with the road, with the nails and with other equipments, other than the firing, they were well prepared. So this shows the intention of the Chinese. And now the bullets have not been fired, yet there is a heavy casualty. It shows they were come well prepared. I don't think we resort to such type of thing. So therefore the situation to me is still grave. It is serious, but certainly under control, because commander level talks are going. There is a maturity on Indian side and professionalism. I suppose we will try to resolve the issue as soon as possible. But I still feel that there is a time now we must raise the level at diplomatic and political level, because things getting out of hand in such type of situation is very much possible. Who thought there can be a commanding officer casualty 2 days back and 3 chats? Now everyone is talking about it. Let's be mature. Things getting spiral out of control is very much possible when the 2 armies are almost on eyeball to eyeball, and they are well equipped. They are matching with their if they have 5,000 troops, so do we have. If they have tanks, so do we have. We are also equally prepared. So therefore, we are playing with fire in case if there is no safe zone between both the armies, and there is a difference between their culture, our culture, their language. However, I still perceive that since commander level talk is going on, good sense will prevail. The situation will get diffused, and we will not have.
I just want to say, sir, that yes, we take your points and your wisdom very, very seriously here on India Today. I just want to also put into context that this is not the first time that the brigadiers have talked. There have been multiple rounds of talks since the first clash on the north banks of the Pangong So since May 5th and 6th when the first clash took place. We all remember that. There have been talks at the colonel level. There have been talks at the brigadier level like they're happening now. There have been at least 6 rounds of talks at the major general level. There have been talks at the unprecedented, historic lieutenant general level. Talks have also been held by the Leh Corps commander. It is incredible, and it is difficult for us to understand how such a clash could have taken place despite all these talks happening. If today's talks were the first talks in the last 2 months, I can understand there is some expectation about the situation being diffused. But with so many talks happening, with seasoned generals talking, how was even a localized dispute like this permitted to escalate into a situation where we've lost a commanding officer, for God's sake, of an infantry battalion? It is incredibly scary to think of what could actually happen if things really escalate, because I am a civilian and I cannot imagine the anger that troops must feel when a commanding officer has been killed in this way. So I would like to reserve my comments on what I think is going to happen next, because I'm not an expert in that, but I hope peace will prevail. Casualties have definitely happened on the Chinese side. We don't know what those numbers are. All kinds of